Welcome to the Hollywood MMA Show. I'm David Kano. Thank you to Skunk M-40 for that intro song. Before we get started, I want to thank our sponsors, SPighter.com. That's SPighter, SPighter. SPighter.com, a place where sponsors and fighters meet. Also, a big thank you to Stone Rum. You can check them out at stonerum.com, where their motto is live long, drink rum. I'm told that they have more than one motto, but that's one of them. Live long and drink rum. Also want to thank Sip Moscato. If you guys haven't heard about Sip Moscato, they're just about everywhere on social media, Instagram, Twitter. They sponsor fighters, events. They're all over the place. Check them out at sipmoscato.com. Jamie Ramirez runs that. Pete Ramirez runs Stone Rum. These guys are taking over the beverage industry. So check both of them out. SipMoscato.com. Like I said, they have a cool little website, or they'll have a gallery, their story. You can check all that good stuff out and more. But let's get right into it. We have a jam-packed show. I don't like to say jam-packed all the time, but when you have a lot of stuff to say, it's jammed, and I guess it's packed. I got to think of something else other than jam-packed. But on today's show, we're going to hear from the one and the only El Kukui, Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson, Ultimate Fighter 13 winner. Going to be in the co-main event at UFC 177 in Sacramento Saturday. Not this Saturday, but next Saturday. In 1 week from today. Or if you're listening to this, it'll be this week. That's Tony Ferguson, where he'll talk about UFC 177, focusing in on his training. He'll talk about wanting to fight at UFC 180 and a little bit of politics as well. So that'll be coming up. But in this first segment, I want to talk about a couple things. Eddie Alvarez, War Machine, Kung Lee. Also, there's the UFC Fight Night predictions. But that'll come a little bit later on. But first up, it's kind of breaking news. War Machine is arrested. That's not really breaking news. That happened earlier on this week. But what is breaking news is Ken Shamrock has come out to say that he wants to, quote, break the neck of War Machine. I think this comes as a surprise to a lot of us. I had no idea that Shamrock had beef with War Machine. Usually when Shamrock has beef with someone, they know it, and the media knows it, and the fans know it as well. But in this case, kind of weird that Shamrock comes out and says this after War Machine is arrested. This is what he had to say, quote, "The thing that's sad about this is that I started John, a.k.a. War Machine. When he first came into MMA, I'm the one that broke him in San Diego. I had issues with him. My 17-year-old daughter and John was like 20-something years old. He took her to Mexico and left her over there. He then ended up disappearing, and I haven't seen him since. He's always been hiding from me because he knows if I see him, I'll break his neck." And he goes on to say, he's always had an issue with this, and the guy needs help. He needs to be doing it on his own. He needs to be appointed by the court. They need to put him into some sort of rehab where he starts understanding. Because it doesn't have anything to do with him naturally. It has to do with him out partying and doing things he shouldn't be doing. He needs help. They need to get him off the street, because if it wasn't for the fact that he didn't have access to another knife, who knows if this girl, his ex, would be alive right now, unquote. A shocking statement, to say the least. That Shamrock comes out to say that John Copenhaver, a.k.a. War Machine, took his 17-year-old to Mexico and left her there. I'm surprised this didn't make news years ago when this actually happened. And if this happened, War Machine hasn't been hard to find. He's been fighting in Bellator and I think a couple other smaller promotions right before then. I'll check on that exactly right now. But for Shamrock to come out and say this years later is a little bit weird. The marshals already got him. And I think that he could have got to War Machine if it was that important. I don't know the details. That was as far as the quote went. after the UFC, War Machine's bounced around in these smaller promotions until he landed with Bellator in 2013. So Ken Shamrock, who one of the godfathers of MMA, obviously UFC, early days, comes out and has this to say, and I'm just, again, I'm a bit flabbergasted on Twitter. People are tweeting me when I tweeted this story out that why didn't he come out sooner? War Machine's not hard to find, and sort of along those lines of what made Ken Shamrock say this now. I'm going to reach out to Ken Shamrock and see if he has a quote on it and see what else he has to say, because I'm sure there's more to it than this story. But War Machine right now, he hasn't fought extradition to Las Vegas, so he'll be headed to Las Vegas to face charges on allegedly assaulting his ex-girlfriend, Christy Mack, and her boy that was there, or boyfriend, a friend that was, I'm not sure what their relationship was. If you want to check out their police report or excerpts of it, you can go to the Hollywood MMA Show.com, where I put some excerpts up. I didn't post a whole police report. I didn't think that was needed. It's pretty graphic in and out of itself. So if this is true and War Machine has done this, it's a pretty horrendous thing. If you've seen some of the pictures of Mac and she lost 2 of her front teeth. I don't know. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, and for him to do that, if he allegedly did that, he'll I guess we'll just let the legal process kind of sort its way out on that. But again, you can go to the HollywoodMMAShow.com and you can check that out. Also, that made big news this week was Eddie Alvarez. Bellator's Eddie Alvarez, Scott Coker, the new CEO of Bellator, let Eddie Alvarez out of his contract. I was surprised at first. I actually asked professional fighter, I forgot which one, and I said, do you think that this was due to Coker having been employed by the UFC after they were bought out by Strikeforce and kind of like helping them out? And I was told that that wasn't his impression or feeling. It was one of those things like, if Eddie didn't want to be there, then why keep him there if he's not happy? Eddie Alvarez is on right now a 3-fight win streak. He took out Shinya Aoki in 2012, Patrick Fryer in 2012. Last year, a split decision victory over Michael Chandler. I was actually there, Bellator 106, and I really didn't think he won. I didn't think it was close. I thought he almost finished Chandler. I think it was in the fourth or fifth round. I think it was the fourth round. But I don't think he did enough to win the fight. I actually thought Chandler dominated Eddie Alvarez. But they were supposed to get it on again, and then Alvarez was injured and now obviously signed on with the UFC. So right away, he's going to be fighting Donald Cerrone, the Cowboy, at UFC 178, the co-main event in Las Vegas, Nevada. This is what Eddie Alvarez wanted, and he got what he wanted. So interesting to see. I think Cerrone and Alvarez is a pretty good matchup. You got two guys that like to stand up and bang. Eddie Alvarez will take it to the ground. Cerrone's pretty good at scrambling and getting up. I think this will be a good test between two lightweights. It'll show you where Eddie Alvarez is at. Cerrone, is he a top 5 fighter in the UFC lightweight division? He's ranked there. I'm not sure if I would put him there or not. It's I mean, right now you have Pettis at 1, Gilbert at 2. I mean, they have Khabib at 3. I think Josh Thompson fell out, but Cerrone is in there. And obviously, Nate Diaz, they don't have him in there. They dropped him from his rankings, but surely he needs to be in the top 5, regardless of of his contract dispute with the UFC or not. But again, I think this will be a good test for Alvarez and Cerrone, and it'll if I think the winner should be in the top five. I'll say that. I don't know if they belong in the top five. I think this would solidify one of them going into the top five lightweight division. And then I think the rest of the way will work its way out. You have Pettis taking on Gil Melendez December 6th. So there'll be either a new champion or Pettis will retain his title. Then you have, obviously, I forgot Benson Henderson. That was the fifth person in there that I missed. Benson's taking on Rafael Dos Anjos at UFC Fight Night. I'll give you my predictions on that later in this podcast. Also, we have, as I mentioned, they have Cerrone in there, but Khabib is in there. And Khabib, he just worked his way in there by winning fights and having not lost yet. But I don't think Khabib has really... He's won his fights, but the last few he hasn't really taken anyone out, and not a top marquee name. I mean, if you take out a Benson Henderson, a Anthony Pettis, a Gilbert Melendez, I mean, that's when you get into the top five. I don't think you just work your way in by beating mediocre people in that. So Eddie Alvarez taking on Donald Cerrone at UFC 178 co-main event. Obviously, I was looking forward to this with Daniel Cormier and John Jones supposed to fight for the UFC light heavyweight title. That's not happening. Mighty Mouse Demetrius Johnson is going to be taking on Chris Carrioso in the main event. I actually think that maybe they should even flip-flop that. Let that be the co-main and put Cerrone and Alvarez on the main event, which I think would be more exciting. Nothing against the flyweights. They just don't sell. Flyweights, bantamweights, even Jose Aldo's not a huge draw in pay-per-view featherweight-wise. BJ Penn was the first lightweight to really put the lightweights on the map as far as pay-per-view-wise, but I don't understand why they keep on throwing the flyweights on and the featherweights on, the bantamweights on. We'll actually see how the bantamweights do at UFC 177 with TJ Dillashaw taking on Renan Barao. I'll talk about that next week. But that'll be an interesting conversation because the first fight, everyone thought, including me, it was going to be over within the first round. Dillashaw was a huge underdog. But that didn't happen. So it'll be interesting to see how many people will fork out $50, $55 for the pay-per-view next week. But that's for next week's show. The rounding out Cerrone and Alvarez. Again, winner goes in the top five. Loser, keep him in the top 10. I think top 10 is good. At this point, I just don't see them being in the top five. But here's the top five eliminator right here. With Benson taking on Dos Anjos, that'll be interesting too. I think they have Dos Anjos in there at 5. I'll check on that later for you, but I think they have them in the top 5 as well. So one of those things where I know the media votes on the rankings, but I think they have this mixed up a little bit. Anyways, also them making the rounds is the photo of Kung Lee. Kung Lee set to take on Michael Bisping in Macau, China. And it's interesting because Kung Lee at 42 looks like he's 26, body-wise. He says that it's due to lighting and a good angle. And this is but Michael Bisping had something else to say. This is what Bisping had to say, quote, "I've seen this picture that is making the rounds on the internet. And my son actually emailed it to me and said, 'Dad, are you sure Kung Lee isn't on testosterone replacement therapy?' And I laughed. It's funny how his genetics seem to have kicked in at 42. I'm sure he trained hard his entire life, but he never had a physique like that now in his 20s or his 30s. But here he's got this in his 40s. Now who knows? Maybe he's just really applied himself. I hope that's the case. I hope he doesn't piss hot on Saturday night. that would throw the whole fight into disrepute. I think that was wrong right there. I'm sure he has. A lot of people aren't sure whether or not he did. I'm sure he didn't. I'm sure he did it the old-fashioned way, and I certainly hope so, unquote. If you haven't seen the picture yet, again, go to the HollywoodMMAShow.com, and you can check out the picture of Kung Lee. And he looks like a bodybuilder. There's no two ways about it. Veins popping out. He looks like a smaller Arnold Schwarzenegger. Thick, cut up, big, veiny. He actually looks bigger than Juan Manuel Marquez did when he fought Pacquiao. And I thought Marquez was juicing, but boxing doesn't have the same type of testing that the UFC or MMA has. And now it's even been more stringent the past couple months. Actually, Brian T. City Ortega just got busted for an anabolic steroid. The California Athletic Commission just came out with that today, saying that they're suspending him for 9 months. Ortega had his first fight in the UFC, which was a submission victory, and now that'll be changed to a no contest. So I think if Kung Lee, I'm not accusing anyone of anything, but if something was up, hopefully now that the testing is getting to a point now where we'd be able to weed out if someone was on something or not. I know there's still ways to mask it. There's no two ways about it. Fighters know how to cycle it out of their system. Yeah, some people are getting busted now, but maybe they just didn't cycle it out in time. I think that this would be fair to do a full show on the time limit of cycling something out, which I know 100% is possible. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But Kung Lee, is it Photoshop? Is it a little bit lighting? Is it a little bit of the angles? I don't know. I don't think Bisping cares much about it. What's ironic is Luke Rockhold came out and kind of gave a jab at Michael Bisping even before the fight with Kung Lee has even happened, and he said that he would bet his purse that he would take out Michael Bisping within one round of their fight, and if he didn't, he would give his purse to Bisping, win or lose. That's having some gall to put your purse on the table against your opponent before you have even faced him before his fight, even with Kung Lee. I've seen that before. I forgot Bisping made a wager. I think I don't recall who it was. I'll pull that up to see. But there was an NFL player that was a friend of a friend, and they were putting up cars. Alan Belcher, that's who it was. Alan Belcher, they supposedly put up a friendly wager over cars, and Alan Belcher had an NFL player in one of the videos. It was kind of funny. They were posting it on YouTube going back and forth. But then they made a little bit of a joke out of it and a light. Made light of the situation, and then it wasn't funny anymore. I mean, if they really were putting up their cars or money or their purse for the victory, I think that would have been interesting. I wanted to see how that would play out and see if someone pays up or put it in paper, put it in writing. If Rockhold and Bisping were to do that and put it in writing, I think that would make for a pretty good and interesting fight. There's no doubt about that. Someone putting up their purse, they were saying that Bisping made $425,000 for his fight against Mayhem Miller, whereas Rockhold made $80,000, 40-40 for his last win. Obviously, if Bisping loses the bet and he gets taken out in the first round, he's going to take the huger hit. But then again, he only has to survive for 5 minutes. He wins. If he gets out of the first round, he wins. Whether he loses or not, he's winning his purse plus the entire purse of Luke Rockhold. So that's kind of interesting as well. Just Rockhold throwing fuel to the fire. But enough about that. Tony El Kukui Ferguson is up next. So I want to get into that right away. Right now, I'm on location here at the Tap Out Gym in Los Angeles, California. And I'm joined with Tony Ferguson. He'll be fighting in the co-main event, UFC 177, next week in Sacramento, California. Tony El Kukui Ferguson, how you doing today, sir?
Doing amazing, bro. A little sweaty right now, but ready for next week. I can't wait.
Now, you're coming off 2 straight wins, 2 straight finishes. You're 8-1 in your last 9 fights. It's kind of been a quiet 9 fights, so why do you think that is?
I don't know. I just take it step by step. Whoever they put in front of me, I just know I'm going to go in there and finish the dude. So it doesn't really matter like who's going to be next or who I'm fighting right now. What we do is we prepare every single fight for that person that's at hand. And there's only 3 people inside that cage. And right now it's Danny Castillo, me, and that ref. And none of his little friends are going to be able to jump in there with him, or neither Dwayne Bang.
Well, let me ask you a question. Let's back up a little bit. Ultimate Fighter winner, 2011. You had a lot of hype on the show, and then you got injured. Do you think you brought this up? You're only as good as your last fight. Do you think that's true in MMA?
It is true, but I mean, that's what the people say, you know what I mean? And I heard that from a spectator. So, I mean, you can take it for as much as you want, but you know what I mean? You're the one that's inside there fighting. I know what happened. I had to go back to square one. I had to figure out what the hell I needed to do to get my shit right. And that's exactly what I did. I signed with a management company, and, you know, I knew where I belong. I'm top 10. I'm going to be rolled to gold, you know, and I deserve that spot. But I had to earn it. And since that fight that I lost with Michael Johnson, my skill level has been building every single step of the way. Since I finished Mike Rio and I finished Kikuno, hey, bro, last call is going to have his last call. So that's what's up.
Co-main event. You've never been on a co-main event before. You got bumped up because of Demetrius Johnson and Chris Carriaso getting moved on. Is there added pressure now that you are the co-main?
Hell no, man. There's never any added pressure. Like I said, it doesn't matter. There's no home or away team. What I learned from my mental conditioning coaches, the game is still played the exact same way. Like I said, there's 3 people inside that cage. So it doesn't matter if it was on the prelims or if it's on that that co-main event card. I know where I belong. And before the Ultimate Fighter, I was actually on the co-main event and main events the whole entire time. So when they put me on the prelims, I thought it was bullshit. From me to you, that's exactly what I thought. So I had to make sure that I worked my ass off till I can get to that co-main event or main event spot.
No, originally you were slated to fight at UFC 176 here in Los Angeles, but that got scrapped due to Jose Aldo. Did that put like a damper on your training that you worked hard for a certain day and then you had to go back for a few more weeks?
Hell no, man. I got to eat more. And what I did was I went back to the drawing boards. I told my coaches, I told my trainers, my training partners, I told them, hey, you know what we're going to do? Instead of on August 2nd act like we have a fight and have a really good sparring match, what we're going to do is we're going to build up on top of what we had. We slowed everything down. We went back to square one. We started enjoying our practices time more, you know, and we still kept it serious, but what we did was we built on top of what we had already. So when they gave me a couple more weeks, that just made it that much more better so I could prepare for Castillo. He's going to have his hands full, man.
What I just learned today was that for the first time in UFC history, they're giving every main event winner a brand new Harley Davidson. What are your thoughts on that?
It was amazing, dude. I was up till 1 o'clock last night trying to pick mine out. It was cool because I was like, I looked at my wife and I was like, hey, look at this one. It's only got 1 seat. And I was trying to tell her, I was like, I'm going to get this one. So she went to bed and I picked a 2-seater. So it's just going to be pretty cool. It's an honor to have it. I don't know if I'm going to be riding it too much because I know a bunch of accidents happen with them, but I know it's going to match my car, and that's fucking awesome.
Does that add that much more pressure with a $25,000, $30,000 bike to the purse?
No, man, I'm a professional. So it doesn't matter what they add to the purse or not. I go in there and I do the same thing, and I'm going to come out of there with that victory. I'm going to have my beer afterwards.
Now, just going back to UFC 176, you said it really didn't matter, but it would have been in your backyard now that it's 350 miles north. Do you think that family and friends will still make that travel for you?
Hell yeah, man. They're all going to go diamond. They're going to be going there with me. And you know what? My fans are going to be there, whether they're there in person or whether they're there in heart and spirit. They're going to be there, and I'm going to hear them right through that TV or through that crowd. And I know I'm going to show up there. That it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's there. I know there's going to be booze, and it's in his hometown. And honestly, it's perfect. I like being the underdog, and it's always that much better when you beat somebody on their own home turf. And that's just how I like it. And if it was here in Staples Center, that'd been awesome too. But it's over there. Hey, no ifs, ands, or buts. We're going to come out with that victory.
Now, you said you learned a lot about yourself in the past few years. What are some of those things that you have learned?
Man. You know, when you break your arm and you have to go back to square one, it's kind of like it puts a damper on everything. It puts you back into perspective, like how bad do you want something? And I had to go back to the drawing board, and I've hit the wall a couple times in practices where I had to decide whether I was going to cry or wanted to kill somebody. You know, I take that quote directly from Pat Barry, and he said that there's that gray area. So no matter every single day when I'm preparing for this, man, I just know that this is what I'm doing. This is how I make my living, and I'm not going to bullshit it. I'm going to go in there every single practice, ask any of my training partners or ask any of these guys that come out here. I'm here to try to be here every single Thursday here at Tap Out LA. I try it. And if I don't make it here, I'm doing something else. And I'm making sure that my time and put forth effort and everything is in there. So that way when I come in there, this dude, you saw me rolling tonight. This is not something new. This is something that's been reoccurring, and I just make sure that I keep building my skill level. I stay humble because these guys keep me humble. You know, and I make sure when I go in there, I carry them on the back of me. So when I go in there and I win, they win.
I see a different like fire and a fervor in you. What was that switch? Was it getting married? Was it family? What was that thing that was like that turned on the switch for Tony Ferguson?
It was just the whole family thing, man. It's just making sure that I had a grow a bigger pair that I had that confidence, make sure that I'm in there going, man, not half-assing the shit. You know, I've been playing sports for over 20-some years, and you get burnt out in this thing. And I played 3 different sports. You know, and I've had my time where I got burnt out. In my Michael Johnson fight, I got burnt out, but I had to suck it up. I have my family to take care of. I have a dog, man. That's not a daughter, but when I have kids, they're going to look up to me. I don't want to be a fucking quitter. You kidding me? That's not how I want to be remembered. I'm leaving my legacy here. That road to gold, that shit is mine. And I'm going to make sure that this lightweight division knows that I'm here to stay.
Now, outside of the fights, are there any hobbies that you do? I mean, I know you're concentrated on fighting, but I know some fighters they go surfing, some play chess. What does Tony Ferguson do in his spare time?
Oh, man, I like to go to the batting cages. I like to go mini golf. I like bowling. I'm a Midwest kid, man, so anything that's outside I love. I used to go hunting, bow and arrows. You know, I like to go running. I like to spend time with my family, and I'm a hell of a skill game machine, dude. I like to play those one little video games where you collect all those little things. Anything like that, man, I like to just keep humble, and I just try to remember to stay in touch with my inner child, because I know once that happens, I'm going to grow old quick, man. And I just want to make sure that when I have my kids, I'm going to be able to still hang out with them, you know, and still chill with them.
You're 30 years old. Do you think you're coming into your prime right now? Do you think you're peaking? Or do you think your prime is still 2 years away?
No, man, my prime is a couple of years away. I'm still young in this sport, and I'm still growing, you know, and my confidence is growing, man. There's a picture where I have Kakuno in an armbar, and the funny thing is I see Anthony Pettis in the background taking notes. You know, my buddy actually pointed that out, and he's like, "You see Pettis right here?" And I was like, "That's awesome, man." And anytime that I can do that, where I see somebody like looking at me, kind of like, "Oh, damn, you better look after this dude," then I'm doing the right thing, man.
So you saw the champion taking notes from Tony Ferguson.
Yeah, man, we saw him right there. He had his mouth open, kind of looking on the side, kind of like, "Oh shit," because you know what? That's the one thing that nobody expects from me. And I got to see Anthony Pettis when we were on Tough 13, and you know, and I sized them up too, and we're about the same size and everything. And I even sized up Benson Henderson. I'll see them. But I'm going to look forward to Danny Castillo first. And I never look forward towards any other person. You know, somebody asked me, like, "Hey, who do you want to fight after?" I said, "Shut up." I said, "I don't want to hear that. You know, I'm not going to name names. I don't want to hear that. Ask me something different." Because right now, who I'm fighting is Danny Castillo.
Well, not naming names, when would you want to fight again? Is that a better question?
Me voy a pelear en Mexico City para la 180, para la Ciudad de México. Ojalá me voy a pelear. It would be a great honor to go in Mexico and fight at the card 180 in Mexico. Victor Davila, myself, and Eddie Bravo, and Casey Halstead, we always talk about that, being able to go to Mexico and go out there and, you know, train everybody. But it'd be such a great honor to go out there and fight. And I think it would just be an awesome time for, you know, to be on Mexico's first card. I think it would be such a huge honor. I think it's my obligation, honestly.
Now, last couple of questions. Do you follow politics at all?
Not really.
Your last name came up. Did you hear about that?
Oh, yeah, man. And what I did was Tyrone Woodley actually is from Ferguson. And the funny thing was he had an article I was reading on the Underground, and it was really touching because he actually went back to Ferguson and was trying to plead with everybody to kind of settle down. And I took that article and I retweeted it and I followed it, and I even sent Tyrone a message saying, "Hey, man, that's pretty damn cool." And he shouted me back saying, "Hey, thank you very much." But it takes little things like that, like, you know, just to be able to send a prayer or just to shout out at somebody to be like, "Hey, bro, you know, you're doing great. That's awesome." And that's, I mean, for Ferguson to be trending like that, that's such a bad thing. You know what I mean? And I looked after that, and, you know, like, we sent our prayers to them just to pray for peace, bro. And I have friends and family on both sides of it, cops and robbers. So it's an iffy situation. It's really shitty, and I hate to say it, but I just wish for them just to come together and be able to get through this.
And for those that don't know, we're talking about Ferguson, Missouri, where there was an incident where a police officer shot and killed a alleged suspect, and that's what we were talking about. But I guess you do know a little bit about politics then.
Yeah, I do a little bit. There's just a couple things I don't touch on, and that's one of them. But when I do feel passionate about something, I will talk about it. But what I see there is they need help, and some ways are right and some ways are wrong. And what I see, there's a couple wrong ways that they're doing it.
Is there anything else you want to add for the fans out there, for your fans and those that'll be paying to watch you on the co-main event at UFC 177?
I just want to say thank you guys for following me, and just thank you for following my journey, my team, and everybody that has gone with me since the day one and that has continued to follow me even though I've been to the rock bottom. I'm fighting for you guys, and thank you very much. Make sure you guys follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Tony Ferguson XT.
That's Tony El Cucuy Ferguson for Los Angeles. Are you representing Los Angeles, California? I know you're from Michigan originally, isn't it?
You know what? I rep Michigan, I rep California, but I rep the United States myself, too. I always wanted to wrestle in the Olympics, man. And I just got this brand new USA Wrestling tattoo. It took me 20-some years to get it, man, but I feel like I deserved it. And you know what? And I never got it because I always felt like I had to keep building on it. But this little piece of hardware right here just reminds me of where I come from. And I tell you what, it's not just one spot. I represent much more than one place.
Well, I lied. I actually have one more question now that you bring that up, because you brought up Mexico being an obligation, but then you have the American, the color, United States colors on you. If you were to fight in Mexico, are you wearing USA colors or are you wearing the Mexico flag colors?
Both. I will represent both, and I always will.
That's Tony Ferguson. I thank you so much for your time. Hard to catch up with.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to Tony Ferguson for that interview. Tony Ferguson will be taking on Danny Castillo, UFC 177 next week in Sacramento, California. I'll have the breakdown for UFC 177, all the fights next week. Kind of interesting. I asked Tony if he was involved in politics. He said not really, but when I brought up his name, Ferguson, about what's going on in Ferguson, Missouri, he said he heard about it. And when he told the story about Tyrone Woodley, that kind of caught me off guard. I knew Woodley was from St. Louis. I didn't know that Woodley had tried to go to Ferguson and tried to put a stop to some of the rioting and the, I guess you would say, not violence, but the tension between police and the Ferguson residents. If you don't know what happened, again, in Ferguson, Missouri, a white police officer shot and killed a black 18-year-old teenager. Allegedly, what had happened was the teenager was walking in the middle of the street. The officer asked him to get out of the street, him and his buddy. He didn't do it. The teenager walked over, punched the officer, and gave him lacerations across the face, and the officer shot. These are just the bare minimum alleged facts that I know. Also, allegedly, the teenager was wanted in the theft of some cigars just a little bit prior to this happening. So that's the whole breakdown. I'm not going to get into the whole breakdown of what happened or the exact facts as they haven't even played out yet. But Ferguson, Missouri, Tony's last name came into play, and he knew right away what was going on. Interesting to hear his focus. You're not there, but when you're there in front of Tony Ferguson, I've known Tony for over a year now, and he's hard to get a hold of because he's been extremely focused. And when you're there and you see the fervor and the fire that he has, it's a bit I guess if I was his opponent, it'd be a bit scary to say the least. I mean, he's keyed in, he's ready. He has the eye of the tiger. I mean, I know that's cliche to say that, but whatever it is that a fighter needs or a fighter has, he has that it. I mean, he's ready to go. I saw him rolling with Eddie Bravo, and I told him I was like I was surprised that he was hanging with Eddie, and he asked me matter of factly why, and I said, well, Bravo's top level, jiu-jitsu. You see I don't know if you watched Metamoris 3, what he did with Hoyler and his jiu-jitsu is world class. Tony can't hit or strike Eddie Bravo, so Eddie's going to have the edge, and he was in there, and Eddie and him were going at it, basically to a stalemate. But I was surprised, but he said he's just been working hard. This is what he does, and he's ready to go. Maybe we'll catch up with Tony next week, since we'll be up there. But again, thanks to Tony Ferguson for that. And actually, we have a shirt that he signed that I'll be giving out. We'll figure out some type of contest. But if you're listening to this, you're eligible. So I hope you listen to the whole interview. I'll probably ask something that has to do with the interview. And that's how we'll do it. That's how we'll give out the shirt. After a certain amount of downloads or plays or what have you, go to my Twitter, the Kano. I haven't plugged it yet today. Usually I do plug it at the Kano, the Kano. Follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, subscribe to the podcast as well. That way you can get informed of every new podcast each and every week. We are going to go to a video format as well in the future. That's what we started out as audio and video on a different station. Thought we'd go the podcast route, and here we are. Right now, next up, I'm going to talk about UFC Fight Nights, 2 events in one night for the third time. One in Macau, China, the other one in Oklahoma, California. So give my predictions on all that and more. Keep it right here. Keep running. I don't know what you're doing right now. If you're running the treadmill, listening in the car, take a little stretch. Put your hands up in the air. Clap 7 times. Why 7 times? That's my favorite number. Let's get right back into it. UFC Fight Night. Michael Bisping versus Kung Lee predictions in Macau, China. 2 events in one day again. I wonder, this is number 3. I wonder how many more the UFC plan to do like this in different parts of the world. I think in the past, some fans have liked it. They're able to watch it in the morning time if they're up. And then you have something at nighttime to look forward to as well. Is it going to be an oversaturation of MMA? At this point, it's a little bit. It's feeling a little bit like that. I don't know how it's going to look in the future. I don't know how. I just know, MMA is the fastest growing sport in the world right now. There's more shows equal faster growth. That's yet to be seen. But anyways, UFC Fight Night in Macau, China. Michael Bisping versus Kung Lee in the main event. I saw these guys in the months back in Macau. They were having lunch or dinner together. They were hanging out together. And then when they face off, they act mad. I don't like that. I'll tell you why. These guys are in here in a fight. They're not here to be friends or eat dinner together. And I think it takes a little bit out of that fighting element. You don't see NFL teams having team dinners together, NBA teams having team dinners, baseball, etc. And these guys don't even fight. They're just playing a game. You got 2 guys in there in a fight, having dinner, having tea. I think it takes off that edge. Yeah, I'm all for sportsmanship, and I highlighted this last week, but again, we're in a fight. It's not a game. You're trying to hurt the other person. If I'm having tea with someone, I don't want to hurt that person. I don't want to hurt a friend. I never have. Never will. That's just the way I came up. I guess you call it loyalty. You call it camaraderie, but I've never been one for that. But anyway, let's look at what's going to happen between Bisping and Lee. Michael Bisping, his last fight was lost to Tim Kennedy in April, and before that he had fought a year before to Alan Belcher. He's 2-2 in his last 4 fights, or 2-5 in his last 5 fights. Although the loss to Chael Sonnen, I actually thought he won that fight, but he got knocked out by Vitor Belfort 2013, and he hasn't been as active as of late as he has. He had 3 fights in 2010, 2 fights in 11. So he's on pace, but at 34 years old, 35 years old, his window to be a champion, I think, is small. I don't think he'll ever be middleweight champion, but if he was to make a run, he would obviously have to put together a couple more wins after losing to Kennedy, starting with Kung Lee. Kung Lee's 42, so you got one guy that's 35 and has a lot of wear and tear, and someone that's 42 that has some decent wear and tear. Obviously, Bisping has way more fights than Kung Lee. Kung Lee is at 11 fights, whereas this will be number 31 for Michael Bisping. Lee's coming off a knockout win over Rich Franklin, a decision win over Patrick Cote, and then he lost to Vanderlei at UFC 139. Before that, he had lost to Scott Smith. So Lee's 9-2. His career, he's not going to vie for any championship either, but I think it's a good main event. Who's going to win this fight? I think it's one of those pick'em fights. I don't think it goes a distance. I think someone's going to get knocked out. If Bisping might have the better, I think Bisping has the better boxing, and Lee's going to have the better kickboxing. And if I had to guess who was going to go out, it's one of those pick'em fights. Lee catches him with some leg kicks, it could be a short night. If Bisping catches him with some punches, it could be a short night. I'm going to go ahead and say Michael Bisping is going to take this. I think he's probably hungrier at this stage in his career. He's 35 years old, and he needs to get going like right now, right away. Also, co-main event on the card is going to be Tyrone Woodley versus Dong Yong Kim. Kim is coming off 4 straight wins. 4 wins, and he originally was going to face Hector Lombard, but the Lombard got injured, and Woodley stepped in. So you have Kim in there with a good little win streak, not against any big names, and then now you have Tyrone Woodley, who lost to Rory McDonald in a match where he just got outclassed. He couldn't do nothing against Rory. Rory backed him up with his jab punches against the fence, and Tyrone had no answer. Interesting to see where this puts Woodley or Kim. I'm sure if the winner of either will move up. Woodley seems like a nice guy. I just don't see him as being a top contender. I don't see Kim as being I think he had his shot. You know, he lost to Carlos Condit. He lost to Maya by injury, but I don't know. We'll see. I think if we were gonna pick this fight, I would say Kim would have the edge, and I think Kim's gonna beat Tyrone Woodley. Where does that put Kim in the 170 division? Top 5? No. Top 10? Yeah. So let's see what happens. Dong Yong Kim versus Tyrone Woodley in the co-main event at UFC Fight Night in Macau, China. After China, that'll be on UFC Fight Pass. After that, switch your channels, and then it'll be UFC Fight Night 49, same day. And that's going to be Benson Henderson versus Rafael Dos Anjos, which is going to be on Fox Sports 1. The preliminary card will be on Fox Sports 2. You have, again, Benson Henderson versus Dos Anjos in the main event. I don't think Dos Anjos said that he sees holes in Benson's game. I don't know. I don't think he beats Benson Henderson. Benson Henderson's he's one of those fundamental guys where he's just kind of solid all around. He's not the master of any one thing, but he's just a solid dude. I mean, he's hard to take out. Pettis took him out with that armbar. But overall, I think he's going to be hard. I don't think Dos Anjos is going to beat him. Dos Anjos, coming off a 1-1 in his last 2 fights, beat Jason High with punches and lost to Khabib in a decision. He doesn't do enough to win, I don't think, and I think it'll be one of those fights where it'll be a 5-round fight, and Benson Henderson will probably grind out another win. That's what I see. Also on that card, you got Mike Pyle versus Jordan Main. Then you have GSP's TriStars Francis Carmone versus Thella's Ladies. Max Holloway versus Clay Collard, which is to be catchweight at 149. James Vick versus Valmer Lazaro. Chaz Kelly versus Tom Ninamaki. And that'll round out the main card of Fox Sports 1. So let's see what happens with Benson and Dos Anjos. Benson, I think right now they have him rated ranked number 1 in the UFC lightweight rankings. With even though Gill's going to take on Anthony Pettis for the title. But let's see what happens. Lightweight division is pretty stacked right there, the top 5 at least. So we'll see what happens between those two. I don't think Dos Anjos is going to get by Benson Henderson. So, yeah, right now you have Pettis at 1. Number 1 contender, Gilbert at 2. Khabib at 3. Cerrone at 4. Dos Anjos at 5. Josh Thompson at 6. Green 7. Miller 8. Marjorie at 9. Michael Johnson at 10. So, let's see what happens. Next week, I'm trying to get Alan Jubain on. Maybe not next week, the following week. He made his UFC debut over knockout winner over Seth Baczynski in Bangor, Maine. I saw Jubain fight earlier this year. Maybe I think it was last year. RFA, he really impressed me a lot, so we'll try to get him on. We'll get Yancy Medeiros, who will be taking on Damon Jackson next week at UFC 177 on the main card. All fighters will get a brand new Harley Davidson, the winners of the main card at least. So we'll get Yancy Medeiros will be on the podcast, and we'll see what else, what predictions for UFC 177, all that and more. I just want to thank the sponsors again, SPighter.com, SPighter.com, a place where sponsors and fighters meet. Stone Rum, live long, drink rum. Live long, drink rum. Say that 5 times fast. Go to stonerum.com for more info on that. Sip Moscato, sipmoscato.com. Again, they're everywhere. And another big thank you to Ray, the editor, Roman. Ray Roman, he does everything. He produces, he edits, he shoots, he does CrossFit, people. That CrossFit is something else. He's getting in pretty good shape. Is it like the new P90X? We'll see. It looks like all that stuff works. You just got to work out. Any type of physical activity works. Again, people, you just got to work out. You're not going to get in shape if you don't work out. So if CrossFit is what he likes to do, hey, that's what he likes to do. I know a lot of people are getting into that CrossFit. It's a little bit hard, the front squats. But again, thank you for Skunk M-40 for that song. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast. Stay tuned for more. Follow me at the Kano on Instagram and Twitter. Go to the HollywoodMMAShow.com for all your breaking MMA news, boxing news as well. And we'll see you again next week.